to be installed up at the pound so that the bedding, other blankets and towels can be cleaned there.
And that increase is in the small tools and apparatus?
That's correct.
Okay.
Moving on to communications, another very easy one tonight. We're looking at a 1.9% increase of $12,709. This is completely reflected in the 2.5% pay raise that personnel got through a negotiated collective bargaining agreement. Next slide, please. What we did in 2021 with the support of Town Council. We answered 17,434 calls for service. We have SROs full-time at Watertown High School and Swift Middle School. We have task force officers in the Drug Enforcement Administration and the FBI Violent Crime Task Force. And you probably hear me, when we come here at least once a month asking for a reappropriation into the overtime account from either the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force or the DEA. It's the officers who are working these task forces that work overtime for the federal agency. The town initially pays the officer, and then the federal agency pays us back. We have patrolled 136 miles of roadway. We have taken care of the safety and security of about 22,500 residents. I'm very proud to say that we held 2 very successful youth police academies in the fall and early winter. And if we get our recent JAG grant approved, I'm looking to fund through that grant an additional youth police academy because it's in high demand, as well as an adult citizen police academy this spring. We have continued to provide uninterrupted law enforcement and medical first responder service during a worldwide pandemic. We added a patrol canine, a comfort canine, and a new police motorcycle. And we continue to work with the town towards a new police facility. Next slide, please. In regards to revenue collected by the police department, in fiscal year 2021, last year, we collected just under $8,500 for driving while intoxicated grant. We received $20,310 to fund our distracted driving campaign. We received just under $5,000 to fund our Click It or Ticket campaign. This is all pass-through money through the Department of Transportation. We collected $52,020 for permits and reports. This is anything from gun permits to bazaar permits and the different permits that the police department handles. And we collected just under $295,000 to the town through police officers working private duty, and this would be the 30% stipend that the town keeps in the officer's private duty rate. This year so far, you can see the numbers on your slide where we're at as of December 31st. Those numbers have already grown since then. Next slide, please. I'd like to thank the Watertown Town Council for your continued confidence and support in the Watertown Police Department. It is our sincere privilege and pleasure to provide police services to the town of Watertown and Oakville. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from Gary?
As far as your resource officers, are they like patrolmen, or are they a higher up, like ranking officers that are at these schools?
Both officers are patrol officers.
Patrol officers?
Yes, sir.
All right, I think there was, yeah, I think that's all I had.
No one else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yep.
Town Council, Town Manager. Mark, you're up. Feel free to include the summarized version.
Speed. So basically, we just had some small, actually, there's no increase on the town council budget. If you have any questions on codification, that's basically our ability to go back and codify all our ordinances. That gives us a line item to work through there. training meetings without travel or training that you would take, like attending the CCM workshops, you can go to that, and we would take it out of that line item. And then special events and programs is, if you remember, it's basically to cover our flowers or small things that we may need to give out throughout the year, including our veterans wreaths and things of that nature.
Sounds
Good. Okay, I'll go
Any-
through them faster.
Any
through
questions
mine.
on that? We're good.
Just on the car allowance went up $2,000.
That's we're not there
We're
yet,
not there yet.
Oh, I'm gonna-
but it stayed the same.
That's the way it's written out.
You can't attack my budget, I didn't even present it yet. So just, as we go through, salary stayed the same, obviously there'll be some adjustment if so deemed. Intern, we're gonna keep it at the same, basically we use our interns to do research for the town manager's office. Currently, the intern we're using is doing research for me for a human resource position. And we also take the blight work that we're utilizing an intern to do for us, comes out of this line item. My car allowance did not go up, it was originally $3,600, but because I started mid-year, it was kind of reduced. But it was agreed to be $3,600. Training meetings without travel, overtime is basically for any staff needs that we would pay regarding running a meeting like tonight. Training meetings with travel or without travel. I've added some money to this line item because I see that there's a need to bring some more training for our supervisors. So I wanted to add $2,000 into this budget so that I could bring some training in to assist supervisors with needs that they have either identified or I've identified through, the year, throughout the year. Maintenance agreements, we are zeroed out. Memberships, I've asked to increase that by $300. The cost to join ICMA is at $1,000. The extra $300 would give me some other avenues for attending other meetings and training sessions. And then furniture and office, we left $900 for small incidentals that we may need, chair breaks, something like that. I think that kind of covers it.
Any questions?
They tired you out, I didn't have to worry about this.
Thank you, Mark. Next, finance, public buildings. I guess, Sue, you're probably up.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. We'll jump right to finance, which is Division 004. I do have some white-collar employees, so there's contractual raises in there for them. You'll see the bottom line is actually less because we did pull out of finance things in the IT department that used to be budgeted through finance. At some point, we are going to have our IT director in here to explain a new division that we're setting up because it's become such a complex thing, and it's hard to have a little bit of everything throughout the whole budget. So we'll schedule that sometime soon also. The audit, same price, that's why the $38,900 is still the same. And I did put $500 in for office furniture, like Mark said, in case a chair breaks or something like that, we have a little extra funding. Any questions? Everything else pretty much stays the same.
When you say IT, is that all the maintenance agreements?
Yeah, so you see maintenance agreements was my big one. It was $86,000 last year. That's all gonna go into a whole nother division now.
Okay, and that's all IT?
All IT stuff,
type of-
correct.
And cybersecurity, I guess, is also?
Same, yes, correct.
It's almost becoming unmanageable for us by having it separated into each department head's budget. So we did meet with IT and we discussed it. The police department's needs for IT is tremendous. So for us to keep better control on it, having his own budget, Mike Simmons, our IT director, I think we're going to try that and see if we can manage it better and get a better understanding of really what our needs are townwide.
Okay, any other questions?
Excuse me, I
Yes.
have one, and I don't know if this is part of your department or not. It's where? Yeah, the bank fees,
Yes.
it went from 1,500 to 3,000.
Yes, well, our bank fees have gone up at Thomason Savings Bank, so that's stuff that is put right onto our bank statements through our treasurer, and it's just gotten up higher. So I did want to cover a little bit more because we were short last year for bank fees.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll go right into public buildings. Public buildings has, let's see, a full-time employee, which is their building maintainer, and then 6 part-time custodians, some here in this building. We've got Vets Park, the firehouse, police department, so there's all part-time workers that handle that duty. I kind of pinned a couple of higher ones this year, and you'll see that maintenance, land, and buildings, we're looking for 110,000. Our purchasing agent and building person found a lot of things just seeming to break down in other buildings, not necessarily here. And with the cost of everything being so much greater, we've decided to increase that line item just to cover ourselves for next year. Also, with the utilities electric, now that the senior center is open full-time, there's an increase there, and we're expecting approximately a 7% increase in electric. We also now have to cover the Munson House electric, so there's an increase there. You'll also see, we talked about the $70,000 earlier this evening regarding the Munson House water line, but there's also $27,500 for the dog pound improvements. That's for the HV.
Chief, is that the roof, or was that?
No, that's for the air conditioning, correct? That's what I have here from Donna.
Which one, I'm sorry?
This is for, at the dog pound, we have improvements, $27,500 in public buildings. Air conditioning, correct. So those, right. Well, she has increase in HVAC.
Oh, for electricity.
Yep, everything, yes, yes. So those are some of the bigger ticket items that were increased. Everything else pretty much stayed the same for public buildings.
Regarding the utilities, most of them you have going up, but for fuel, oil, and gas stayed the same. Prices are all over the place nowadays.
Yes, well, you'll see when we get to, let me see which, when we get to miscellaneous central, we'll do that in a couple meetings. That's where the fuel inventory line item is.
Okay,
So that, there is a big increase there.
so what does this 90 cover then?
I will tell you, let's see. It's basically just that, it's for, that's for the buildings, like, oil,
Natural
fuel
gas,
oil,
oil.
natural gas, that kind of stuff. Where the other one is for gasoline.
Okay.
I apologize, but this is actually somebody else's budget, I'm just reviewing. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. Just on the dog pound thing where you said 27,500, it's, that was also some other improvements to the building itself, not just the AC on it.
They already did the flooring, correct, Chief? The flooring is done. You appropriated money a while back to do that.
Is that in that 27,000, or is it
No,
No?
the 27,000
that.
is,
Oh, okay.
let me
just
just
for
get
the
to that
AC itself?
line item again, hold on. It's for, yeah, the air conditioning, oh, actually, it does say new roof also, so you're right.
Okay.
Now, were those some of the items that, I forgot if it was the state or someone came in, looked at it, that said we had those improvements we had
Yes,
to
I
make?
think the chief could probably answer that, but that's why the flooring had to be taken care of right away.
Yep.
And then some of the others also, yes.
And I just have one question with the Munson House. Obviously, $70,000 to fix the water pipe is a hefty dollar amount. I guess my question to you guys, but also to the town council, do we need to fix that right away, or can we decide what the plans are for that building are first before investing $70,000 into it?
So we may have time. So basically, the way it was left is there's a leak in the line midway between the road and the home itself. So if that leak stays at a dribble as it is, we're okay. If it bursts, we're going to be forced to do that immediately. The line is 100 years plus old, so basically, we're going to have to dig it up at the street and then replace it. And if we're going to dig it up at the street, we're going to replace the whole thing because the whole line is 100 years plus years old.
And we can't turn it off at the street level?
We cannot turn it off at the street level. We've turned it off at the junction box. I'm not sure how far into the property that junction box is, but that's where the leak was detected. So to dig up Route 6, there's quite a bit of cost involved with that. So the plan was that for now, as long as that leak does not become a gusher, we would try and budget for this moving forward. You know, if we could always take that out moving forward, but, you know, we're going to be in that position if that
Yeah,
water
always a
line
good
does
risk.
go.
Any other questions? Thank you.
The last one is health services, only 2 items on that budget. We have, let's see, the elderly nutrition has gone up due to the number of meals. This coming fiscal year, they're budgeting for 19,348 meals at 60 cents a meal.
Can you give that number again, Sue?
Sure, it's 19,348 meals at 60 cents a meal. So that's the 11,608.80.
I wish my lunch don't cost that much.
I think the utilization is way up from last year, because if you could see, we went from 5,008 up to 11,000, doubled. Then we have Torrington Area Health, which is a per capita assessment from them. They have our population being 22,083 at $5.48, so it brings it to the 121,015.
Any questions? Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Now we will continue with the rest of our agenda. Subcommittees, ordinance. Anthony, anything to report?
We had last week we had an ordinance subcommittee meeting, and we reviewed the proposed changes to the, see, I'm getting tired myself now.
Noise
The
ordinance.
noise ordinance, thank you. And essentially what we did is we had a general discussion on it, and we're going to have another meeting. I believe it's March 4th. I could be wrong about the date, but
I don't remember.
it's, I'm sure the town manager can post it, and it's sometime early March. I thought it was March 4th. I could be wrong about that date.
I believe that's
but-
correct.
Public Works?
Yes, I have. We had a meeting on February 14th. All subcommittee members attended. There was no public participation. Under old business, there's an ongoing issue with some water drainage issues on Buckingham Street and Ball Farm Road. That has been determined several months ago that is not the town's responsibility, that it's the homeowners. I'm just going to read the minutes here. Committee discussed this issue. Mr. Spina reminded the committee that the town engineer, Paul Benovich, has submitted a hazardous mitigation grant application, and he's awaiting response. Hopefully that will provide the homeowners with some relief. Under new business, we talked about what's on our agenda. Under new business, item C, we reviewed the town damaged mailbox policy that dated back to '03. And I'm also going to read that because I think it's important because there was one person that had a mailbox. I'll read it. Mr. Spina discussed policy as currently exists. Thinks policy is adequate, but recommended increase in the reimbursement amount from 40 to 75 per current price to purchase material. Also discussed was an incident that happened on January 17th, 22, while staff was engaged in plowing operation. A few mailboxes went down on Winding Brook Farm Road. After the town was notified, Mr. Spina and Mr. Grand Prix both went and investigated. Both determined that there was no evidence of contact between the plow and the damaged mailboxes, so the claims were denied. Pictures were provided by the resident and some video. A motion was made by Herm DeCina. It was seconded by Rob Ritalik, and it was voted unanimously to increase the fee from 40 to 75. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Now on to new business, 9C. We have a
I
motion.
move to approve a modification to the policy on responsibility for wintertime damage to mailboxes to change the reimbursement rate for mailbox damage by the snowplow to be $75 as recommended by the Public Works Subcommittee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I make a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into and execute on behalf of the town of Watertown an agreement with Golf Now for software, marketing, and/or technology services for the Crestbrook Golf Course.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Here.
Just want to know what that's all about. Go.
Tells you
wanna-
right in the motion.
Oh, yeah.
Summarize that slightly, or?
Is that the new POS?
It's not a POS, is it a POS system? It's a scheduling software that's online for golfers to come and schedule their tee-off times. So we'll enter into an agreement with this vendor. They'll do all the marketing for us. It'll be posted on the Park and Rec website, and then golfers just come in and schedule their tee times.
And for the record, this is a company that we've dealt with in the past, and we're just renewing the contract.
That's correct.
Anyone else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I make a motion to accept the recommendation of the ARP Committee concerning the use of ARP funds, which would authorize the town manager to select the standard allowance option for government agencies with total allocations of $10 million or less. Electing the standard allowance does not increase or decrease Watertown's allocation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mark, do you want to summarize that? You want me to summarize that?
Whatever your pleasure is.
I'll try, and then you can fill in
Okay,
any blanks.
okay.
With the ARPA funds, they're 6.4 million that were either received or will be receiving. Originally, there were more severe restrictions on a little over half of that. And there was also money that, through a calculation, was considered lost tax revenue, because of COVID. I believe that number came to like 2.7, I don't know, I'm making that up, somewhere 2 to 3 million, somewhere in that range, was lost revenue that had less restrictions. Then they came back and changed the rules and pretty much said any town that's receiving less than $10 million can move it all to the less restrictive category. So then it more or less goes in the general fund, and the town, as we feel wish, or through the ARPA committee as well, can allocate those funds for future projects. But the paperwork required to make it with the federal government to move it, so we're saying that's what we're doing with it, so they're not going to be looking for additional reports on how we used the money going forward. Good summary?
That's a good summary. Just a reminder that if you elect to have this money moved over, we cannot use it to reduce taxes in any way. So this is for other projects.
And for the record, we're able to maintain a tax rate without it going up more, but we cannot have like a lower mill rate.
That's a fair assessment.
Okay. Any other questions? Denise? Turn your mic on.
Pardon?
Turn your microphone on, please.
Okay. What recommendations are going to be acted on from the committee? Have you picked any projects?
We've done one so far, and that was for breathing apparatus for the fire department,
Right.
which was $550,000. But other
575.
recommendations, I don't think have come forward yet, or
Okay, so that's the only one?
so
that-
far, that's.
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
So we didn't add that to the motion, but
We should.
we should add to the motion, if your pleasure is to do so, is to recharge the ARPA committee to bring back some ideas back to the council to consider, because the ARPA committee has done considerable amount of discussion on other topics, and I think it would only be right that we could bring those forward to you to decide whether that's a project that you'd like to move forward with or not.
You like to make a motion?
I would like to amend the motion to include language that would indicate we would like to recharge the ARPA committee to bring back recommendations.
And is there a second?
Second.
So we have to vote on the amendment first.
Correct. Any discussion on the amendment to the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? And then any further discussion?
Then we have to vote on the motion as amended now.
No, sorry. We have to,
What?
Well, before that, I want to
yes,
ask.
the discussion.
No, I wanted to ask just, so if we're accepting these funds, we cannot lower our mill rate for, period, for any reason, even if, let's say for some reason we found, we're efficient in our budget, we couldn't lower our mill rate at all?
I'm not going to say that I read all 400 pages of the final ruling, but it's pretty clear in the summary that we cannot lower our taxes as a result of accepting this money.
As a result of accepting. And what is the time frame to spend this money again? Where we fall under this potential restriction?
There is a time frame. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's 2024.
Yeah, I think it's
It was
24.
2 years,
It's a
wasn't
couple
it?
years, give or take.
That should be a problem.
Any additional? Yep, Gary.
No, I just want to say, on the CCM website, they had a webinar about the lowering the restrictions of this money there. So if anybody wants to go on and look at it, it's pretty informative.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and by the government changing those restrictions, it definitely helps our town and many towns like us out quite a bit. Anyone else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $10,392 for tax refunds.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the tax refunds.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Aye. All in favor. Have a good night.